Hello everybody. So in this video, I'm going to go over the major themes and points that are coming up in this new moon in Scorpio cycle, but the entire cycle. So this spans from November 13th to December 12th. So we start with the sun and moon conjunction together, also known as the new moon on the 13th. The moon meets with the sun at 20 degrees Scorpio, and this is the beginning of the moon cycle, taking place in undoubtedly the most intense sign of the zodiac. Scorpio speaks to assertive energy forces. That have origins beyond our sight and vision. It's kind of coming from something beneath, and it's a deep, visceral pull. So we're already having that symbolism of the dark. And a new moon, as you know, we also have a dark sky. So this time, new moons in general are very subjective. There's a space here for the solar and lunar conscious and unconscious qualities to blend, which in itself is very mystical, and together unfold truths through time, through showing of light, that for now are beyond our veil of view. The moon is known to be in its fall in Scorpio. The lunar qualities exhibit an unstable expression here. So that waving, wandering nature of the moon is fixed but intensified by flooding Martian energy. It makes me think of like blood in water and how it just kind of totally takes over and contains the clear water. That natural flow is controlled and pressurized even. The Scorpio moon is motivated by control and directed emotional activity. Upon meeting, the luminaries are directly opposite Uranus, the most unstable and erratic planet. So we could really feel this inner rise of wanting to contain, control, or act with our will towards something suddenly and erratically, which can also produce a strong need for space in order for us to do that, and also scratch that itch. This transiting aspect produces like a really strong itch that it's almost like this impulse that you have to do this thing. And it's also that breaking free kind of energy that you find with Uranus. So this opposition is just before the moon meets Mars at 22 degrees Scorpio. So already there's a few intense aspects going on. Mars is really significant throughout this entire moon cycle, and has a couple dynamic aspects over the month. It's also close by to the sun, so it's kind of complicated where it's in its sign of rulership and it's doing very well, but it's kind of getting burned by the sun's rays. So the moon in Mars is primal. It's survival, sensitivity to threats and conflict, emotions that force action. There's reaction when you think of that. This emotional impulse and this kind of just gut instinct to just like get it out. And this is painting this whole lunation until the next new moon. Once we start to move away from the dark sky, the light waxes as the moon moves through Sagittarius. Here the moon is translating Mercury's recent ingress into Sagittarius that began with a square to Saturn on November 10th. Mercury and Saturn, both immutable signs, have a way of stretching and reprocessing thought forms. Secondly, the waxing crescent moon is present for Mercury's sextile to Venus that recently returned home in Libra. So as the moon is gaining light, it's able to act as this satellite for these transits, and it can be more easily relayed into our consciousness of what they are implying. So Venus in Libra sextile Mercury in Sagittarius, most generally we can look at this as asking for support in both peace and freedom. The waxing crescent is also an insanely creative lunar phase. And since Mercury will be the ruler of the full moon of the cycle, which is in Gemini, it's worth watching also. And also how this mutable modality is going to start increasing and being highlighted as we move towards that full illumination. So if we could start thinking about how to lean into these energies, mutability, changeability, they can possibly steer this fixed energy to promote that deep healing and transformation that Scorpio is really known for. On November 10th, we have our first aspect of tension between the luminaries for the moon cycle. The moon is in Aquarius, fixed air, and is in tension with the sun and Mars in fixed water, Scorpio. So Scorpio, Aquarius, fixed air and fixed water, the compulsion of the mind and the compulsion of emotion. And an inner and outer conflict may arise between ourselves and external circumstances during this time. That's usually characteristic of a first quarter moon because it is a square between the luminaries. Tension around this time is also speaking to the merging of energies between Scorpio and Sagittarius. We kind of have this transforming time. And Scorpio and Sagittarius is where that contraction births expansion. As energy builds towards that full moon, it also reaches Gemini. And once the moon gets to Gemini, it forms a square to Saturn and an opposition to Mars, just before opposing the sun and giving us our full moon. So the full moon at 4 degrees Gemini on November 27th is characterized by this separating mutable T-square between Mars, the moon, and Saturn. And this could be really restless energy. Restless energy is kind of characteristic for mutable tension. Mars square Saturn highlights conflict. Whether we are fearing conflict or charging towards it, it's evident that it's there and it's palpable. We don't really want to be tied down in mutable tension, so there really could be this nervousness that comes around this time, or trying to contain the nerves. And don't forget that that overview at the new moon had an opposition to Uranus. So restlessness is just really part of the climate of this month-long cycle. And it kind of is that erratic timing where it can pop off at any time. And we're kind of feeling that, like something's about to drop. Since mutability ideally dissolves and recycles things, that period of restless is part of the process. And usually there's not much you can really do during that time besides try and ground that energy. And to add to the confusion, the lunation of the Gemini full moon is ruled by Mercury in Sagittarius, a sign that it does not particularly do well in, and it is square Neptune in Pisces. And we all know Neptune in Pisces and its disillusionment has been going on for quite some time. We can get sucked into the world of beliefs and conviction in that belief, with Sagittarius also being introduced into this. And it's always helpful to remain curious at this time towards the possibility of distortions in our perception of reality. So by the time we reach December 5th, we have our final aspect of tension in the cycle with the last quarter moon at 12 degrees Virgo. A period of release and refinement before the next moon cycle happens now and is really going to peak in Virgo. And if we think back to that mutable square that we had between Gemini, Pisces, and Sagittarius, Virgo is that release point. It's where we can look to find guidance or find resolution for all of this pent-up energy. So adjustment is needed, a time for bringing chaos to a sense of order, even if that can only be done on a very small, mundane, step-by-step kind of detailed level, whatever that might look like, just to bring in a sense of inner practicality and see where we have been ungrounded, or first even realizing how ungrounded we've felt and what we can actually do to rehome the psyche after so much activity. So for the Scorpio new moon cycle, we see a fixed concentration break off into highly mutable energy. Like when you focus and put your energy towards something and you really just finally drive it in, and it splits off into new forms and new awarenesses. It's a great time for psychological work, depth psychology, and using the energy at your disposal in a way that can change your position in your life and learn something about yourself, not only your motives, but the beliefs that you operate by. And that's what I have for this upcoming cycle. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this content or any of the content I make sure you subscribe. I appreciate it so much, and I will be back soon with another video.